The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website.
Hello, I'm Julie Masters. Less than 100 years ago, the devastation of the Holocaust combined with World War II was underway. As Holocaust survivors reach advanced age, finding ways to continue to share their stories becomes critical. Joining me today is Dr. Beth Dotan. She and her colleagues have been working on a project through UNL entitled Nebraska Stories of Humanity, Holocaust Survivors and World War II Veterans. She will share the results of this vitally important effort. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, I'm Julie Masters and welcome to Live and Learn. A special thank you to the LNK TV production staff, Dave Norris and Aging Partners, and to my fellow co-hosts for your support. I'd also like to say a thank you to the late Lita Powell Drake. You were missed. Those who survived the events of the Holocaust and World War II are quickly coming to the end of their lives. Sharing their stories becomes vital to ensure this history is maintained. Joining me today is Dr. Beth Dotan. Dr. Dotan is one of the principal investigators and project managers of the Nebraska Stories of Humanity, Holocaust Survivors and World War II Veterans Network portal and educational website. Welcome, Dr. Dotan.
Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here, and I always appreciate our partnership. Thanks for inviting me.
Likewise, it's a great pleasure. Do you mind if I call you Beth?
Absolutely.
All right, Beth, thank you so much. Beth, you have spent your life focused on educating the public about the Holocaust. First as the founding executive director of the Institute for Holocaust Education in Omaha, and then continuing your work in Israel. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about your background?
Sure. I am actually not from a family of Holocaust survivors. My work in the Jewish community in Omaha and as my master's is in Jewish education, and I am particularly interested in the work of Holocaust memory. Mm-hmm. In Omaha, the work came to us. Really, it was educators and others wanting to know about the Holocaust at a time when television programs were starting to tell that story. Mm-hmm. And Holocaust survivors were speaking out really more so than in past generations. After we developed our center in Omaha, I moved on for a little while to Israel. Mm-hmm. And worked at the Ghetto Fighters House Museum, mm-hmm. working as the international director to help promote the work that was going on there in the Western Galilee.
Beth, you've done such important work in ensuring that people's stories and the history continues. So now you've come back to Nebraska, and could you tell us a little bit about the current project that you've been working on?
Sure. I saw an opportunity to extend and increase my education. I really thought that understanding the pedagogy that goes behind Holocaust education is paramount, because things are changing so quickly in our world today, and it's the end of this generation. It is. So through my work at the Institute for Holocaust Education in Omaha, I got to know all of the survivor families who were still in the community, and I realized that along with a doctorate in Holocaust memory and education, and having that huge village of people, there was something to be done, and that I held these stories that were given to me, and I needed to share them.
You've been entrusted with their stories. Could you tell us a little bit about the people who are featured on the website, and why did you select them out of so many people?
Sure. So it was a very difficult task. Mm-hmm. When I started my work at UNL in the College of Education, Teacher Learning and Teacher Education, I saw that there was an opportunity to merge digital humanities and education in order to tell these stories. So we were accepted as, I was the first student project in the CDRH, and we saw the opportunity to start to build a portal that would tell the stories. I had to choose 5 stories out of the many individuals, and we chose people who who had lived across Nebraska. So we had B. Carp, who was a child survivor from the camps in France, which is an unusual story. Clarence Williams, who was a World War II veteran and liberator of the Dachau camp. His collection of letters and photos were significant to be able to digitize. Maury Udis was a Jewish veteran and a Dachau liberator. There were 2 others who we included. So one of them is from Gary, Nebraska, Irving Shapiro, and another was Hannah Rosenberg Grodwell, who was here in Lincoln and came right before the war, and her grandparents were sent to Treblinka. So we have sort of these different stories to give the initial components of the portal an understanding of the wide variety of individuals and where they came from.
You know, you've taken people from all across Nebraska and given voice to their experience and the power of that voice. So in our gerontology classes, students read books by such authors as Elie Wiesel and Viktor Frankl to introduce them to the Holocaust. And as an educator and someone who's just done a beautiful job in helping to advance the pedagogy behind Holocaust education, how do you think these books will help people to understand the Holocaust?
Well, I think these are perfect examples of narrative memoir survivors who were willing to put their story, be vulnerable and put their story out there. It took a long time before Wiesel's book was actually published because the world wasn't ready for those stories yet. And today, with social media, with everything that's exposed everywhere, we need to continue to capture these stories. And I think that these are classic authors who should be read over and over again. When I came to speak for your class, I read Wiesel's book again. It had been 10 years, and I saw new things. I understood new directions of how to understand that memory. And so one of the goals that we have with Portal is to aggregate as much material as we can. So if we have a testimony from one of the individuals, they tell their story, we transcribe those videos or testimonies so that all of their material is searchable. But in addition to that, we're including all kinds of disparate materials that are out there in the world, and we're bringing them to one spot. So it will be beneficial to be able to read a book like Night, but use comparisons and understand who are the people who lived among us in Nebraska that may have had similar experiences.
You know, Beth, what you've been able to do is to take, and I can't think of any other word but horrific, tragic event. And again, you've been able to give students, whether it's students at the university or in other areas, to give them a sense of these were really people. These were real people who had lived a life, and just how important that story is. Mm-hmm.
I think when we look at the history of the Holocaust, we're looking at this destruction of democracy and how people who lived in a free world, everything was dismissed in their lives. And understanding the life from those who survived, as well as the trauma of the events and the loss of their families. But then to tell the Nebraska story of understanding how they were resilient.
So you've very generously introduced me to such people as Dr. Lou Leviticus, who was an engineering professor at UNL, just a dear soul, and Cantor Leo Fettman, another dear soul. Both of them spoke of their experiences as survivors to Holocaust, in terms of survivors of the Holocaust, to students at UNO and UNL. How are you working to preserve their stories?
Their documentation and stories will be included in the portal. Lou is in the next group, and he was a dear friend of yours, of mine, and so many people in the community. So I'm looking forward to gathering up his materials. And although he was a child of 8 or 9 years old, I think that we'll be able to find, again, the disparate materials that can supplement his narrative.
Thank you. Beth, first of all, congratulations on completing your PhD, your doctoral program through UNL. And now that you've finished your doctoral work, how will you find ways to continue to educate others about the Holocaust and also those who served during World War II?
My hope is that this portal provides many years of continued work, and that we will utilize that central place for the new LB 888, the Holocaust mandate in the state.
That's good to know.
As well as utilizing this site for research for higher education.
Outstanding. Well, our viewers will be able to access and see the website, to see the web address, as well as some other materials that we think will be of interest as part of this program. Beth, as we come to an end, and again, thank you for taking the time to be here, a question for you. What gives you hope? And especially as it relates to your work?
I think one of the things that gives me hope, and that I learned in my non-traditional education as an older individual going back to do my doctorate work, is that this material keeps evolving, and that the digital world provides an entirely new level of meaning making for these narratives of survivors and veterans of the Holocaust.
Wonderful. Dr. Dotan, I'm just so grateful to you that you would take the time to be with us and to introduce our viewers to the work that you've done with the portal. And for our viewers, thank you so much for your time, and remember, it's never too late to live and learn.